So, I mean, my father's a songwriter as well, and he had a little studio in the garage. And when I used to wake me up, sounds terrible now, he used to wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, for instance, and he'd drag me down, and we had an old Revox reel-to-reel tape recorder, and you had to press the red button and the brown button together to record. But because he built his studio properly, he had separation, so he had a control room, and he had the performing room. And so he would be in the performing room ready to do his vocal, and I had to sit there in my gym jams and my dressing gown, pressing the play and record. Then I learned to do the rewind to the zero counter. And I would have been about 8 then. And by the time I went to university, I was at a band, and he'd gone up to a 4-track tape recorder, which allows 4 tracks recording before you mix down a cassette. And so I used to record with my band in his studio. And when I went to university, they had a new 4-track, and nobody had the faintest clue how to use it, except me. And so I just basically I'm an autodidact. No, everything I've ever done in my professional career, I've never been taught formally. I've always sort of learned to myself. And I just learned to do sound design for theatre. Spent 3 years just doing that. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't want to do English. So I did theatre studies in English. And then eventually gave up the English bit, and I did film, theatre and sound, or film, theatre and music as my final degree. It's a Bachelor of Philosophy, actually, because I was able to change. So I stumbled into sound, and I really didn't think about it again until I started work at Goldsmiths as a sound technician. And I didn't want to be and I had to teach courses, and I didn't want to be the guy who says, then you press that button, and then you press that button. So I devised a kind of concept of design as scenographic sound, and it just went from there, really. So if you're a bit of an obsessive creature, doing Foley is the job for you. Putting sounds onto actions. He's shaking his head. All my best students
my idea of hell.
What, Foley?
Yes.
Oh, I love Foley. Adding weight. An image is just an image. It has no weight. It's an insubstantial thing of light. You may as well show pictures of your nan. It's when you start putting sound onto that image, it adds weight, and it goes from lean back to lean forward. And I still you're talking about the thrill of going up to set. I teach Foley, and the first class I do is just putting footsteps onto people walking. Still, it's just like a little bit of magic to me, even though I'm pushing 50. I've been doing it for years. The idea of just adding weight to action just is and that's what makes me a sound designer. Because that's, what you're obsessed with. That's my addiction, as everybody talked about. I hated being a freelancer. I really, really hated it, which is why I became a full-time academic. I couldn't stand not knowing where the next job was coming from. And as soon as I finished that really, really good gig, which we were hoping to sell to America, I was in Stephen Street, went downstairs, and I was looking at all these kind of shops on Tottenham Court Road that has all these big sort of monitors. I was looking, and then I saw there's these twin towers, and then I saw these planes crashing into them. And my job disappeared for 2 years. Absolutely went through the floor. And so you're at the whim of an industry that is constantly changing, and I hated it, which is why I'm now a full-time academic doing a PhD instead of being a full-time sound designer and composer. What university will let you do is, first of all, you will have an intellectual as well as practical understanding of the subject matter. You will have seen an awful lot of films that people writing their personal statements talk about the classic films they've seen, like Jurassic Park, or Twilight, or Harry Potter. And I'm thinking, nah. You don't know what a classic film is. You don't know what a great film is yet. Those are the films you've enjoyed, and that's fine. But a classic film is She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, or a classic film is, oh God, I can't think of any now, Taxi Driver. But I would prescribe my route, which was university. You can experiment, you can try stuff out, you can learn language of cinema. You might decide what it is you want to do. You might think you know what you want to do now, but I mean, I've got 2 girls in doing an MA in the National Film and Television School that never even thought of sound before they arrived here, and yet they're going to be, one's going to be a location recorder, one's going to be a post-production mixer, and they will be in work for the rest of their lives.